We are driving on the S5 expressway from Poznan to Gniezno, the first capital of Poland. It will take us around 40 minutes to travel the distance of 60 kilometers between the two cities. 1,000 years ago, this route took far longer. The path was dotted by forts erected every 20 kilometers, for that was the distance that a horse-drawn cart could travel in one day. The magnificent castle town of Lednica was located on an island. The only means of accessing the settlement were two bridges, over 600 meters long and 6 meters wide. The high road connecting Gniezno and Poznan went through this town. During the 10th century, it was a masterpiece of engineering. You are made aware of the sheer size of the construction only after seeing the bridge poles that are on display at the Ostrov Lednicki Museum. The rulers of the Piast dynasty kept the road network well maintained. In Konin, in the Wielkopolska province, there is a stone post that dates to 1151. It is the oldest Polish road sign and was erected by the Prince Piotr Dunin. It marks half the distance between Kruszwica and Kalisz. And how did the roads look back then? More emphasis was put on security than maintenance and repair. The engineers of the past did not have good means of hardening the roads. In damp areas, fascine or wooden bales were used to make the route last longer. This methodology was the same all over Europe. The Wielkopolska province had the best road network in medieval Poland, but it was the route that connected Kraków to Sandomierz that would be forever remembered in history. The state road number 79 runs the same as the ancient path from the 10th century. Ibrahim Ibn Jakub took that route 1,000 years ago, and he provided a detailed description of it. Well, as we know, travel broadens the mind. History keeps on trucking. And at least the roads keep getting better, but we will talk about that in the next episode. The development of roads contributed to the development of towns and states. Poland in the 15th century was a country that remained at the forefront of contemporary Europe. One of the more enlightened characters of the Polish Enlightenment was Jan Ostróg, governor of the Wielkopolska province. In his treatise, he advocated building of a wide road with lanes in two directions, as well as the introduction of medians and greenbelts in order to reduce the amount of head-on collisions. You could say he was the forefather of today's highways. The time of the Jagiellonian dynasty was a time of prosperity in our country. It was a time of constructing roads and taverns. The first bridge on the Vistula, in the city of Torun, was built back then. Warsaw was the second city where a bridge over the Vistula was built. The construction began in 1568 on the orders of King Sigismund August. This Gothic gate separated the bridge from the wooden buildings of the new town in case of a fire. The bridge was around 500 meters long and 6 meters wide. For its time, it was a marvel of engineering. A document detailing the rules of the road was also drawn. Other cities followed Warsaw and Torun. More bridges on smaller rivers started being constructed. In Grodno, a wooden bridge over the Niemen River. The author of this carving from 1575 must have made a mistake and turned the river around. Better now. Today, at the site of the former wooden bridge is a so-called Old Bridge. Poland at the time of the Jagiellonians was one of the biggest countries in Europe. One of the greatest challenges was to create roads connecting the most important cities of the Commonwealth of Poland and Lithuania. The road network expanded east and north. There's a yellow stagecoach standing at the entrance to Nowe Miasteczko in the Lubuski province. Not everyone knows that in the Saxon times, i.e. the beginning of the 18th century, a very important courier route passed through this town. The courier appeared here twice a day on his way from Warsaw to Dresden and vice versa. 600 kilometers between the two cities were covered in 5 days. The schedule was met if there were no accidents, of course. There still exists a building where the stagecoaches stopped for the night, here in Kościelec, close to Konin. After the Vienna Congress of 1815, the development of roads on the Polish territories was the responsibility of the countries that partitioned Poland, Austria, Prussia, and Russia. In Bożków, close to Pestry, there is a reconstructed border post. It was here that the border between Prussia and the Polish kingdom, part of the Russian Empire, was located. 1819 marked the establishment of an organization called the General Directorate of Roads and Bridges. An engineer called Franciszek Krystiani was nominated at its head. His first order of business was road building. The most important ones were 12 meters wide and were, for their times, as close as you could get to highways. You had to pay to use these roads. They were built using crushed aggregate, according to a method designed by Scottish engineer John McAdam. At the time of construction, it was hardened by rollers pulled by carts. Thanks to that method, the stagecoaches and wagons carrying wares could reach higher speeds, up to 16 kilometers per hour. Franciszek Krystiani was responsible for building more than 2,000 kilometers of macadam roads in the Kingdom of Poland. In comparison to the rest of the Russian Empire, the kingdom was at a higher level of civilizational development. That was thanks to the hard work put in by Poles, not thanks to the occupational authorities. One of the most important routes was Trakt Brzeski, more than 190 kilometers long. It connected Warsaw with Brest-upon-Bug. The construction is commemorated by monumental iron obelisks that can be found in the Warsaw-Praga district and in Terespol. What's interesting is that the road network from Krystiani's blueprints is very similar to the network of roads that can be found today in central and eastern Poland. The most important engineering enterprise on the Polish lands in that time was the Kierbedge Bridge, constructed in 1864. It was the first steel bridge to be built in Warsaw. It remained intact until 1915, when Russian troops that were withdrawing from Warsaw blew up 2 of the central bridge spans. A couple years later, independent Poland was reborn. When the First World War was finally over in 1918, Poland regained its independence. Melchior Nestorowicz was nominated the head of Ministry of Public Works in 1919. He was already a legend in Polish road building and public administration. The challenge at the time was to merge the 3 systems that were in use in the partition parts of Poland. In the Russian and Prussian partitions, regular right-hand traffic was in place. However, in the Austrian partition, the road traffic was English in nature. That is, people drove on the left. This was not only the case with road or rail transport, but also with vehicles such as trams, found in Lwów or Krakow. The worst situation when it comes to infrastructural development was found in the old Russian partition. The Soviet war from 1920 did not help matters. The young Polish country had to rebuild hundreds of engineered structures in the east of Poland. The Polish army helped in that regard. The eastern borderlands lacked in road infrastructure. Some cities were connected by dirt roads, which were not pleasant to travel on. While the infrastructure in the eastern provinces was being built from scratch, central Poland already had a network in place. These roads had to be modernized. When it comes to the surface of the roads, the best examples can be found in the Katowickie and Poznańskie provinces. Polish engineering was at a high world-class level. One of the most famous scientists, Professor Stefan Bryła, was a lecturer at the Lwów Technical University, as well as at the Warsaw Technical University. He designed the first on-Earth welded bridge in Sudwia, close to Łowicz. It was constructed in 1929 and is considered a marvel of engineering. Other remarkable characters from that time include Władysław Treliński. In 1935, it was him who patented a concrete slab in the form of a hexagon, still commonly found on Polish roads. Treliński also invented iron rail track underways. The National Road Fund was created back then. Extra taxes from all sold cars, from sold gas, from road advertisements, as well as fines paid by reckless drivers, were all put into that fund. 20,000 kilometers of roads were constructed in the interwar period in Poland. In 1939, a new plan to build highways was in the process of being implemented. Unfortunately, that is when the Second World War began. The Second World War was a tragic event in Poland. The majority of the bridges over important Polish rivers were demolished. In total, around 66% of pre-war installations were destroyed. Our country also had to accept being in the Russian sphere of influence, and many severe land concessions. Much like the time after the First World War, the first thing on the agenda was to integrate the infrastructure of the so-called reclaimed territories in the west with that of central Poland. The changes of in-state borders meant that Poland became the sudden owner of 140 kilometers of post-German highways, as well as a well-maintained network of local roads. However, their surface had been damaged in the war. Modernization of existing roads was the brunt of the effort until the 1960s. Asphalt and tar surfaces were very common. Only 250,000 vehicles were registered in Poland in 1965. The situation changed when Poland obtained the license to manufacture the Fiat 126P. Only 127 kilometers of highways were constructed in the 44 years of the Polish People's Republic. After the fall of communism, another 130 kilometers of highways were built in the following decade. At the beginning of the 21st century, Poland was the biggest construction site in Europe. With help from the EU, the road network in Poland was modernized according to 10T plans. The engineers had to overcome many technical difficulties, like here in Pechory Śląskie during the construction of the A1. To allow for construction in areas where coal mining used to take place, unique solutions were applied. The state of the surface was constantly monitored, and the works were carried out without stopping road traffic. At the same route in Mieszana, the widest bridge in the whole of Europe has been built. New extra-dose technology was applied during construction. The bridge is around 400 meters long and stands as a proud example of Polish engineering work. Today in Poland, we have more than 3,000 kilometers of highways and local expressways. This has positively influenced the comfort and security of travelers. The history of road building and maintenance does not end here, though, as constructors are still facing many new challenges.